him through, through breaths, like I can't breathe. I'm like, I can't breathe. Like, you gotta stop. Like, I get it now. And he like, that's the point. And I feel myself going in and out of consciousness. And the police ended up coming. I want to say one of the neighbors called the police. And because one of the neighbors was trying to get into the unit, she said she heard the screams and everything like that, and knew what was going on, but she couldn't get through the door. So I ended up crawling to the front room, letting the police in, and they came in, and I made it to the couch, and they're like, trying to figure out what happened. I got a busted lip. I can't breathe. They give me water. They're like, you need us to call EMS. Is everything all right? Like, what's going on? What happened? So I'm explaining to them what happened. And I remember one of the officers, being like, telling the other guy, like, well, he had scratches on him, and basically trying to make it out to be like
you were the aggressor. Yeah, definitely.
And the officer that I was talking to, because they ended up separating us. They left him in the unit, took me in the hallway. And I'm out there, I'm panting, trying to catch my breath. I'm drinking water, trying to, get it together. And the officer almost lost it. He's like, what do you mean? Like, she's 9 months pregnant. What do you mean he has scratches on him? Of course,
Right.
She's trying to protect herself. And they asked me, what did I want them to do with him? And I'm like, I just want him out my house. Get my keys from him. I just want him away from me. They're like, do you need us to call EMS, to come and get you, or are you okay? I'm like, I'm going to drive myself to the ER. Just please get him away from me. Leave me alone, and I'll take care of it from here. And I ended up driving myself to the ER. Got there. They're like, what happened? And I know how that whole process go, when you tell them that something's going on, and I'm like, I'm about to bring a child into this world. I don't need these people in my business. So I'm like, well, we were just, wrestling, me and my child's father, and I failed, and I just want to make sure my baby's okay, innocent. So the lady, the nurse that I was talking to, she, made it clear if there's any domestic violence going on, we're going to have to get CPS involved, and, all of this. I'm like, I definitely don't want this going on.
Right.
So I'm like, no, it's none of that. I'm okay. I just want to make sure she's good. So she's okay. She looks me up to all these monitors, and she's like, the baby's not moving. The baby's not moving. Her heart rate had dropped significantly, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, oh my God, like, I'm about to lose my child. And she's, they're hooking me up to all of these machines. They're giving me this sugar. They're doing all these different things, trying to get her to move and trying to get her heart rate, back up where it's supposed to be. And they're like, we're going to have to keep you for a few hours to monitor you and make sure everything's okay. I didn't tell anybody I was there. I was scared to death, scared out of my mind. And I just remember praying so hard, that I'm like, God, whatever you do, just please keep my child safe. Please, bring her into this world, safe and healthy. I'm like, she deserves a chance.
Definitely.
And I'm just like, please let me just make it through this, you know what I'm saying? And at that point, I'm like, something's got to change, something really has to change. He was blowing my phone. I'm calling, texting. I'm coming up there to the hospital. What you up there telling them people, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, don't come up here. Just leave me alone. And I just laid back in the bed and just prayed. I had tears falling down my face, and I'm just like, I can't believe I'm here.
That I'm here. So, this is probably a question that everyone wants to know, and I know you guys are asking questions, but I cannot answer on live. I'm sorry. So when you got out of the hospital, and again, this was your apartment.
Yep.
His name was not on the lease.
No.
Why didn't you get a PPO on him? How did he end up back? How did you guys end up back together after you getting out of the hospital? How did that happen?
So I didn't get a PPO on him because I wanted him around for the sake of our daughter.
Okay.
And I wanted him to get that we didn't have to be in a relationship because we had a child in common.
Co-parenting.
We could co-parent. I'm like, we can co-parent, you know. You don't have to worry about, you know, no child support. You don't have to worry about me bringing in everybody around our child. I'll still consult with you in regards to making decisions to her. You know, with her, we don't have to be together.
Right.
And of course, in the heat of the moment, he's gonna agree to whatever's gonna get him back around. So he's like, okay, you know, I just want to see, you know, I just want to be around you. I just want to be there for my child. You know, I want to be there for you because I'm high risk at this point. You know, so he's like, you know, I want to be there for you and make sure you okay. And I want to make sure my child is, you know, healthy and safe. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm like, I don't want to keep him away from his child. You know, I want my child to have what I didn't have, which was two parents, two active parents, a mother and a father.
Right.
And ultimately, that was the thing that was keeping us, you know, together is the child. And it just, once he, you know, it would be good, you know what I'm saying, until it wasn't.
Until he started drinking. So he had a mother, and you know, sometimes in domestic violence relationships, the mother, you know, which I've experienced, when I was kind of dealing with what I was going through a little bit, it was like, you know, I didn't really tell too many people. I'm not an only child. I have a big brother, and we're very, very close. And, you know, unfortunately, you don't want to get the people that you love involved because one or two things can happen. They can hurt them, or they can hurt the person that you love. And so many times we think that we're ready to, you know, so many times I thought that I was ready to leave and end it, but I knew, you know, hey, if they said the right word that I thought that I needed to hear, that wasn't going to be it. And then at that point, I don't want my loved ones in jail, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So his mother, knowing, because didn't you tell me he was married before?
Yes.
So his mother, so you weren't the first victim.
No.
He was abusive to his wife.
Yes.
So his mother knew this.
Yep.
So again, you don't, you know, and I get it. Like you have a child with him, so you don't really want your child's father locked up in jail. So you reach out to the mother, and what does the mother say?
So we had an incident at her house one time where we got into an altercation. It's a verbal altercation, and I was saying that I told him I was going to leave because I noticed that he had been drinking. Of course, by this time I knew what that meant, you know, how that was going to turn out. So I was telling him that I was going to leave, you know, and that I just talked to him when he sobered up. And he's like telling me, you know, you're not going nowhere, you know, you're going to sit down, you're going to listen to me. And he's like, I'll kill you and bury you under the house right now. Like, if I tell you you're not going nowhere, you're not going nowhere. And that's what I knew. And I ended up slipping away, made it downstairs. His mom was outside on the porch. And I ended up, I'm pretty much in tears at this point talking to her. And I'm like, listen, you know, because he was raised in a home with his mother and father.
Two-parent home.
Mm-hmm. So I went to her and I'm like, you know, I like to think that y'all didn't raise him this way. I'm like, but I'm tired. I'm like, he has absolutely no respect for me. You know, I'm tired of him treating me like I'm his child. You know, talking down on me, calling me all type of names. No respect whatsoever. And I'm like, he's terrible. I'm like, he out of control. I'm like, and I don't know what to do. And I don't think that, you know, this is how you expect for your son to be, you know, and treat me. And she really didn't say much at all. She had really no reaction. She was just like, no, I didn't raise him like that. She was like, but I will talk to him, you know, and see what's going on with him. And I'm like, okay, you know, but I'm thinking, you know, this is his mother. He loves his mother. You know, if she said something to him, that's really going to mean something, you know, and he's going to change. Mm-hmm. Nothing happened, of course.
So do you think, this is a question, do you think that in the household of him is his father still alive too?
No, his father's deceased.
Okay.
Yep.
So do you think that he saw his father abusing his mom?
Absolutely. And I ended up finding out about the abuse going on in his home after, my incident, my when I caught my case.
Okay.
And a few friends of the family who were, close with his mother and his father was like, this was the pattern in his home. His dad was a really heavy drinker, and they fought like cats and dogs. They like, that's how it went, but they were, they was old school. They was staying together,
No matter what. So
regardless.
talking to his mom was just like basically talking to the wall at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So March of 2019, something happened. You guys went to a party at your friend's house. It was game night, right?
Yep.
Tell me what happened.
So we went to one of my friend's birthday parties, and it was a game night, at her parents' house. And I initially was gonna go by myself, without Eugene, and I ended up I did tell him about it though, and he was just like anything else. I'm gonna go with you. I ain't got nothing to do. So I'm like, okay, whatever, it's cool, we can go together. So we ended up going, and it started off to be a pretty decent night. He was over there at the table, playing cards, with everybody that was over there, and I was talking to my friend and and a few more people. And there were some guys over in the area that I was in though. And I mean, nothing, it was innocent, nothing was going on. We were just conversating. And I could feel
him looking
at me, burning a hole through my face. And I'm like, I'm trying not to look because I'm like, this ain't that type of night. We having a good time. We're not about to do this here,
Right.
And we ended up making eye contact. I looked over there and he told me to come here. He motioned for me to come over there. So I went, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, why you over there? You supposed to be over here. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, boy, you playing cards, everything good, we doing our thing, And I walked away. I'm like, we ain't finna do this. So I ended up going in the restroom to make a phone call. We were supposed to go pick our daughter up at a certain time. And I'm assuming while I was in there, he had been looking for me. And the fact that he couldn't find me just sent him over the top. He got mad. Well, he left me at the party. He just disappeared. Left, didn't say a word, didn't say, hey, I'm gone, none of that. Left. Bust up. So I came out, and I'm like, we getting ready to go. And I'm like, well, where? I'm looking for him. He gone. They like, he left. He been gone. So I mean, at that point, I had already knew what it was about. Luckily, my mom, my stepfather was there, and I just, I had them drop me off at home. So I rode with them. They dropped me off at home. I get there, and he lets me in, and I'm sitting on a couch. Now I'm feeling sick. We had been partying, having a good time. And he's like, I'm on a couch, and I remember vomiting, and I'm like, I'm not feeling good. I'm sick. He comes out. He's like, he's calling me all type of names. You unfit. You're an unfit mother. You drunk. You drinking. This don't make no sense. That you come in here. Like this. So he calls my mom. So he's like, he's on the phone talking to her like she his child. He's like, why would you drop her off to me like this? And she's drunk and she throwing up and this don't make no sense. And calling her all type of B's and calling her out her name. Like, he off the chain. And I remember just telling him, like, just leave me alone. He's trying to yank me off the couch. And I'm like telling him, just leave me alone. I'm like, I'll be okay. Just let me shake this off. I'll be good. And he just wasn't letting up. I ended up going to get in the bathtub. I'm sitting in the bathtub trying to get myself together. I hear him from afar on the phone arguing with my mother, and he's still calling her all type of names. He's going off and he's talking about me, and it's just all type of stuff. And from there, the confrontation continued. And the next thing I remember is being in the front room on the phone with 911 and him laying on the bathroom floor, blood everywhere.
So, and I want to be careful of the verbiage that I use because Facebook will, all the things.
Yeah.
Did you have access to a firearm?
Yes.
Was it yours?
Yes.
Did he know you had it?
Yes.
So, and I know you said, because you it sounded to me as if you snapped, you lost it, and that can happen. So, you feared for your life.
Absolutely.
So, you used the firearm on Eugene, right?
Yep.
And you hit him 5 times. Is that right?
Yes.
5 times. Okay. So when he was in the bathroom on the floor, was he still conscious? Could he talk?
He was still conscious. He was asking for me to call for help.
Okay.
My daughter was crying in the room, and I set the firearm down as I was on the phone, and I went to get her because she was crying, and he asked me if he could see her, and telling me to call for help. And I took her and I walked past the bathroom where he was, and I was letting him know that I was on the phone, with 911, and that they'd be here. And I was calling for help, talking to them, explaining to them the best I could what happened. And they were asking if the shooter was still present. And I said, yes, I am. And they were like, you? And I said, yes, I am. And, they told me to stay on the phone, where, we have them dispatched out there on their way. Police came, I let them up. They came into the unit, guns drawn, everything. And I'm still holding my daughter at this time. I'm trying to comfort her and, everything. And they went and rendered aid to him and, proceeded to, to question me about the incident and what happened. And I explained to them the best I could, of what I could recall from the night and, what happened. And they told me that that I had to call someone to come and get the baby. They asked me if I had anybody to come get her, and I said yes, I do. I can call my parents. And they had me to get her things together for her. And they called, actually. I just guided them, through the phone for them to call my mother. And they called her, told her that she had to come get him, and they eventually told me that I was being placed under arrest.
Was he still alive?
He was still alive. And I was initially being charged with like an assault, some form of assault, because he was still alive. They took him out. They placed me under arrest. They took me out. And they didn't tell me that he passed away until a few hours had passed by. So that following morning is when they told me he was deceased. That he was deceased.
So when you, and again, so let me ask you this: when you purchased the firearm, did you have it before you met him?
Yes.
Okay, so you already had it, so it wasn't even that type of situation. How did you feel when doing that? Like, How did you feel? What did you feel? Were you? What type of emotions were you having when that after because I know it was like a dream almost, like this couldn't happen. How did you feel?
Yeah, it was. It felt. It didn't feel real. And like I said, they didn't tell me right away that he had passed away. So as they were calling me out back and forth to talk to the detectives, and the deputy chief, I remember asking them constantly, is he okay?
Right.
I'm like, is he okay? They're like, oh, he's fine. He's going through surgery and everything. And I'm like, I'm not even concerned about myself at this point and what's going on with me. I'm like, well, how soon can y'all let me know that he's okay? And they're like, we'll let you know as soon as, and, but they're asking me, about the night, to recap everything that went on, ask me the same questions in different ways.
Yeah, different ways.
So we're going through that. And, I'm like, I'm not even eating anything at this point. I'm not doing nothing. They ended up calling me. They sent me back to the holding cell, brought me back out. And like, unfortunately, Mr. Jones is deceased. They gave me his time of death. And I remember it felt like the room started spinning, and I'm like, I can't believe, and I broke down in tears.
Yeah.
I broke down in tears, and I'm just like, I can't believe this, this happened. I never wanted it to, to be this way or get to this point,
Go this far.
This is my child's father, but it wasn't nothing that I could do, and I'm trying to still not even thinking about how this has totally changed the dynamics of everything that I was finna start going through.
Right.
I'm still trying to offer as much information that I possibly can to paint a picture for them of how it got here, you know, and still not even knowing. And they sent me back to my holding cell, and I'm in there looking around at these walls, and I'm trying to figure out what happened. How did we get here?
How did this happen?
And then I'm like, they have to have the wrong person. Like, maybe it was somebody else. You
just don't think that it's real.
I don't think it's real. I'm like, maybe they're gonna
tell me that he's okay.
That he made it. That he made it.
Yeah, this is not real. So this is where we wanna. Is it 6? Is it 7? 7 o'clock? Okay, so I want to do a part 2 with you, Naja.
Okay.
Because I want more information. I want to know how it was inside for you. How did you, because I know the prosecuting attorney that was on the case. And, like, how was it? How were you treated when you were inside? So we're going to do part 2 next Thursday, the same time, 6 o'clock p.m.'s Red Room. Okay. I want to thank Naja for coming. I want to thank her for sharing her story. And I want to do part 2 because it's so many people, Naja, that are going through what you went through.
Yeah.
And it's multiple reasons why you won't come out with it. You're embarrassed. Mm-hmm. You're ashamed. The person could be taking care of you. Mm-hmm. That wasn't even your situation. Like, you were independent, and actually you were kind of taking care of him.
Yes.
You're not an ugly, unattractive woman. It doesn't matter. As I stated, abuse has no color, no race, no shape, no form, or how it looks. It just happens. Mm-hmm. So I definitely want you to come back, and I want to talk about your experience inside, and I definitely want to talk about where you are today.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
All right, Facebook. I'll be